I am intense. And so, like, is that really the persona that, and when I say persona, like, is that truly who I am? No, because who I truly am is when I show up in love and I'm just like, hey, bring it, right? Like, I'm like there, that's like when I'm lit up. And so I had that hit that I want to do. So I'm sharing with you my growth, like this vivid vision of what my life looks like, not so much in the doing and the task orientation, but what is that, like when someone meets me, what do they see?
So can I just say real quickly that when you show up in what you were saying, like what lights you up, to me, it's like it's an intense passion. It's an intense love.
Yes.
And so like your intensity is what draws me to you.
Okay, well, thanks.
And so just be you
Yeah.
for what it's worth. So
Yeah, thank you. And thank you. I appreciate that. And so I share that with you, meaning that this vivid vision that you have, Lachelle, that's 3 years out, the chances are all of you have been doing some things working towards that. And so I think that's right on. And I think I spent 2 hours today with my mastermind gals. And one of the things that we were talking about is this whole idea of, the man standing on the beach fishing. I don't know if you've heard the story or read it. It's in a book somewhere about then this other guy comes up to him and says, hey, you're a great fisherman. And the guy's like, thanks. And he goes, hey, have you ever thought about, like, you're so good at this, you could teach all these other people how to do that. And then you could buy like a boat and go out and catch that much more fish. And then you'd have all this money that you could buy more boats and create like this big industry, like empire of doing all of this stuff. And then that would give you time to come fish at the ocean. And he's like, that's what I'm doing. Right. And so the thought process around growth isn't always, and I've known this, but growth isn't always
paper clips,
forward. What did you say, Kathy?
paper clips.
Yeah, it's not always paper clips. It can be growth like this way, it can be growth this way, it can be growth moving forward. It can, like, and what does that mean? And does your personal vision, which is why I start out with like the physical health, the spiritual health, all of those things when we first started, was does that align with what you want for your business? Because sometimes I see where people will say, I want to have X, Y, and Z in my life and be able to do this. But then whatever the business structure is, like I'll give you an example. I wanted to make a big impact, right? So I knew I couldn't do that by myself. And I also know that it might take a couple of years to get to the point where then I'm doing the things that I absolutely love versus doing some of the tactical things that I'm doing today. And I'm okay to sacrifice that at this moment because I know it's going to lead to this. And so, what are those non negotiables and what are those negotiables for what you really want? And that's where we talk a lot about that, like true desire. And so, making sure as you're thinking about the business too, does that fit into having that, like Lachelle, I know for you, it's about like the flexibility and, does that fit into that? And it very well could, but it also might not. And then it's about how do I figure out tactical ways then to make it so that it does, right? Like, so I'm not saying my model is the answer to everything, but hiring other coaches to then be able to coach frees up my time to do the things that I want to do, right? So anyway, I pontificated.
All right,
Sorry.
I'll pass it on to Kathy.
Okay. I'm still basking in my 10K for my win.
That's exciting too.
My knee doesn't hurt anymore. I just went for a walk, so I'm free to start running again tomorrow. So
Good.
yeah.
Awesome.
So that's surprising for me to be
I
this
love when we
dedicated.
surprise ourselves.
Yeah.
Look how committed you're being to yourself. That's pretty
I
awesome.
know. So the challenge for the vivid vision is you say we're going to present it, and I don't know what you mean or what you expect for a presentation. What, PowerPoint? Do I have to have a whole flow? This is like, do I turn on my old Toastmasters? What do you want?
Well, I would ask you, what helps you keep your vivid vision alive for you?
Um, uh, a metaphor. uh, I mean, that's something I don't know if I can share, just something I can have in mind so that I could access the physical feeling that the, the vision will get me in my mind.
Yeah. And I guess, Kathy, what I'm looking for is for you all to put it into whatever format works for you, right? Like for me, putting it into slides, that was what was most comfortable for me. I've had people put them into, I had somebody go out and create like this really cute little like spiral bound kind of workbook. She was a teacher, Nicole, and she put it in this like super creative thing. I've had other people put it into a vision board. I've had other people like put it into a spreadsheet. Like whatever for you helps you keep in mind and allows you to be able to share it with other people. Because part of the vivid vision is, even though like you're now like creating it and you keep it kind of close for a bit, then you're going to share it with all of us. Eventually you're going to share it with your ghostwriter and web guy, and eventually you're going to share it potentially with some other people.
What's it?
Your
What am I sharing?
Your vivid vision.
To me, like the vivid vision right now is the workbook with the, dozen questions.
Mhm.
Like what is it to you? What are you sharing when you share your vivid vision? This
When
question and answers, or do you have a story? Do you have a elevator pitch?
Yeah,
What is it?
second, because when I came home, everything's shut down. Let me go out and I'll show you all projects. There you go. So this is what I have been using and what I shared with my team and what I've shared with you all. And for me, it was more of a slide kind of situation where I'm claiming this vision for 2027. And so I just put it in like, what are we and what do we stand for? What do we do? Like the culture. And some of this I took from the book that I had sent to you guys, The Vivid Vision. And so the culture, and then what's kind of the overall vibe? What's the energy that people feel from that and the brand? So, like, I went through and created that piece of it, and then at the end, I tried to be funny, if I can get to it. Right. I talked about services, how we make money. What are the finances? Like I'd love to get to the point where I can take my staff on a expense paid retreat with their families and like do some planning. What do the clients say about me? And then am I dating? Like, do we have flying cars? And so have some fun with it. For me, putting together kind of like a Canva PowerPoint was easiest for me. And so, Kathy, it's like if you were sharing with someone, you might have a metaphor that you want to create a story about and share what the vision of who you're being and what you're doing in the work that you do. And other people, it might be, I mean, hell, if you want to come and rap a song, like whatever it is for you. And I know I'm being very ambiguous because it's not about what I'm expecting, but what I'm expecting is for you to know and have a good knowledge of where you want to head in 3 years. So that at the end of 2027, if we were all sitting down having a cup of coffee or a glass of champagne or whatever your heart desires, that you could look back and go, wow, and it also then becomes kind of a compass for you. I don't know if that answered your question as specifically as what you were looking for.
But in general, like for the why and the what combined is you want some way to communicate the answers to the questions so that we can have the goal in mind?
Yes. So taking those questions from that workbook and then also taking a look at some of the stuff in the book, looking at the one I sent you and saying, how can I put together, what is the vision I have for my company? And how is it best for me to communicate that to my team, to the people I work with? You know, like if I were to describe and explain what I do, why I do it, and why it's so important to me, how could I do that? And so like the workbook with the questions, that's a tool to get you to start to like capture some of those thoughts. And so if a metaphor is easiest for you, create a metaphor for you that says what that vision for what you're doing as work, right? As the vocation, as the company.
Okay, I need to digest what you said and see if I understand it.
Okay. And some of it too is because if we don't have some of the masculine energy structure while still being an infinite being, it helps us to move forward into where we want to go. It doesn't mean that, I mean, it may change, it may morph, right? Just because you write down, here's what you want in 3 years doesn't mean it may not morph a little.
Yeah, statistically. But when you're saying masculine, it's because you think masculine is the only way to get stuff done?
No, I'm saying the masculine structure is, we're kind of trying to put a little bit of structure on this while still staying open to the feminine flow, so that someone that is not you can communicate to them. If you decide to hire someone to help you with something, you can communicate what your company stands for, why you do what you do, and the importance of the role for them. So like, as an example, my house cleaner knows what my vivid vision is. And she knows how she fits into that is that she frees up about 6 hours of my time every month to be able to do what I do to impact people's lives because she's cleaning my house and it brings me peace of mind. And so she has a really good understanding of kind of what I'm doing, what I hope to do as an impact, what I'm like, how I make money, what services I offer, kind of the why and the what I do, so that she sees how she fits into that picture. And some people would go like, a house cleaner, really? I'm like, yeah, because that really does allow me to have that time and allow me to relax in my house. She also helps me with a stream of income because she cleans my Airbnb whenever I need it. And so that's kind of as you grow and as you have people help support you, and even for yourself, then you have this picture of where you want to go, because we need to act and think like the person that's already in that position, right? 3 years from now. Because if we continue to act and think the way we do today,
I think like the way that I look at it is, because Kathy, you're so good about energy. So the law of assumption says that if we act as if it is already here, it will be, right? And so I think that how I see the vivid vision is the clearer that I can be with it, the more I'm able to get into the space where the law of assumption could work for me. And I think that when I have in the past had to articulate my vision to someone else, it helps me to solidify it in my head. And when I think about masculine, I think about, having this production in my studies have said that masculine and feminine have to come together in balance for something to be produced. So if we're way into masculine and we don't have any feminine, then like a dude can't procreate to save the world, right? Same with the lady. Women have to have something to be able to make more babies. So when we have this combination of masculine and feminine together, that's what allows the production of something. And so that's how I look at it, is like, okay, so I can do the things to help me to solidify, to bring in that masculine and feminine together in that balance. I don't know if that.
I mean, like I have a full understanding of masculine, feminine. That's really not my question. My question is the purpose of this, just so I can try to get my creativity going, is to be able to communicate it easily to everyone in my world.
To communicate it to those that you want to, and to do what Lachelle was saying with the law of assumption, that once you have it in your mind, then it's in your subconscious mind. And it helps other people understand it that want to then get on the bus with you and help support that. So to answer your question, yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Does that help?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm just I'm now on the how, I think. Like it's just it's gonna be harder for me to Google Translate it. So
yeah. And I appreciate that. And I think in like Debbie's little opinion here, I think it will be a good practice for you, so that as you go forward, even describing for people that may be future clients what you do, it will help you articulate that.
I can tell I'm a little defensive about being told that I'm not masculine because I mean, you're not saying it outright, but you keep bringing it back, like if you don't do the masculine, and I'm like, I'm trying to do it a new way. I can go into masculine, very easily. I'm trying a new way. So that's why I get triggered with that. And I'm like, I don't want to revert to my old ways because it didn't work.
Yeah. And Kathy, thank you for speaking up about that. I wasn't speaking specifically to you. I'm speaking that like this vivid vision helps create some structure and allow for us to know which direction to head, and allow for us to continue to be open to receive in the feminine. It's not specific to you.
Okay. So I turn it over to Pam.
There you go. Thank you.
You're muted.
Mute jar.
Sorry. I watched this YouTube channel where whenever someone's muted, the rest of the people go try to see how long it takes her to figure it out.
Okay, wins. Well, I lost 4 pounds in the last week. So that's right. And I'm my whole plan is to focus on the activities that are going to get me to lose weight, like the actions, not on the weight itself. So I'm not beating myself up about what the number says on the scale, but I haven't stepped on the scale in a week, and I needed to know if I had something going on that was working, and it seems to be. So that's super exciting for me and keeps me motivated to keep doing the things that I've been doing, which is eating better food, drinking more water, trying to move more, do all of those things, and just focus on the process rather than the actual number on the scale. I even made my husband hide the scale so that because I'm so used to just stepping on it. I did that last week and it made me really mad. So now we actually put like a little basket on top of it, so I can't mindlessly step on it before I get in the shower. And related to my vivid vision, I think really I've got most of it done. It's just I need to kind of fine tune it and put it into like a Canva presentation or something that is easily shared, right? Because right now it's just in Notion and it's just text. And so I've done like the initial initial work. Now I got to fine tune it.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all for sharing. I'm looking forward to those presentations. A little announcement. I am going to be on the road next week. The plan is, but based on weather, I might be in no man's land in Wyoming or Colorado. And the plan is that even if we are, we're going to try to stop somewhere so that I can hook up to like a Starbucks internet, or at least have this call on my phone. If something weird occurs, because I know the following week I'm going to be closer to like the East Coast, which has a little more coverage than it does here in the Pacific Northwest. And so if that's the case, I might do a switcheroo and have the mastermind be next week, where Sarah can start you guys and have you split off. And then we'll do the internal game the following week. So just know I might need a little grace and flexibility there if I can't get hooked up to the internet. But the calls will still be the same time, same place. They just might get switched.
What about the Q&A on Tuesday?
The Q&A, I'll be fine because I don't leave till Wednesday.
Okay, perfect.
And then the following week, we don't have one because it's on the 2nd and 4th, I think. And there's 5 Tuesdays this month. Is there? No, I'm looking at
I
it.
have one on the 25th.
Yeah, but there's nothing on the 23rd.
Right. Yeah, there's no.
Right. It's the 16th. So it's the 2nd and the 16th for the Q&A. And because it's the 1st and the 3rd Tuesday, not the 2nd and 4th, sorry. And there's 5 Tuesdays, we won't have a Q&A on the 30th, but it will start back up on February 6th.
Gotcha.
Okay. Does everyone have some paper? And we're going to have a little bit of a discussion here, because the last 2 months, we've talked about the law of rhythm. We've talked about the law of gender with the masculine and feminine energy. We've talked about rhythm with the fact that there is constant energy, right? It's constant movement. And the law of rhythm also has this law of neutralization, and like neutralizing sometimes energy that causes us to like blip. And then the law of gender also has this idea of the law of gestation, right? That there's this incubation period sometimes before something comes into maturity. And the law of sexual transmutation, which talks a little bit about, although depending on where you look, this one comes up and it doesn't come up, but that like sexual energy is creativity, and it's like life force energy. And so I guess the moral of that story is if you're not having great sex, figure out how to have great sex. No, I'm teasing. But but when we look at that, what I want to do is find out from you all, like when you think about the law of rhythm, and it's been a couple months since we've talked about that, what does the law of rhythm mean to you? Do you remember? And just to spur your memory, we did some questions around when is your best time to be creative? When's your best time to work out? Do you have a rhythm through the week that by like a certain day, you just need some time? You know, like there's rhythm with the waves of the ocean. Like I know for me, mornings for me are very brain loaded. By the end of the day, I'm kind of like, don't give me a lot of brain work to do. So what's the law of rhythm mean?
I feel like I missed that day.
Maybe so, but what do you think?
I don't remember that conversation. But I will say I really wholeheartedly believe in rhythms in my business. It's a very big part of what we do, and providing kind of predictability for the team, and structure for the team, so they know when they're going to meet with somebody, when they can get help, when they can have somebody's attention, when they're going to be held accountable for things, like all of that. We have regular rhythms for the leadership team, and regular rhythms for like one-on-one and performance reviews and kind of all of that kind of stuff. But are you talking more in like the personal, like your own personal rhythms?
Well, you kind of took us into the next question I was going to ask around this too. So I'm going to open it up to all of you guys to discuss, what do you see as the law of rhythm and how does that apply to what you do every day? Right. So the law of rhythm for you, what does that mean?
Well, I've been thinking about it a lot lately, just as like there's identifiable as we get older, right? There's some different identifiable seasons in our life. And like that has rhythm to me, but like my own personal rhythm stays the same in way that I work. Like I am not good in the mornings. I'm not going to hop up and be doing a whole bunch of stuff. And for some reason, I cannot actually do any work before 10 a.m. It doesn't matter what I do when I get up. If I wake up at 5 a.m. and say I'm going to get started, I will piddle around my house until 10 a.m. and that's when I can get started. I could never get to Sky Zone before 10 a.m. Like it's just how I am made. And
For me,
happens
it's
when you
9. I'm
fight
right
that?
there.
What happens when you fight that?
then I get all out of sorts. And you know when I'm really good? From 2 to 7 p.m. That is the most inconvenient time to be really focused. 2 to 8, like right in the middle of like dinner and parenting time, right? I mean that's when I'm really good. I will fart around all day and then get so much done in 4 hours during those times. So like I really see that strong hold in my life with that rhythm.
Yeah. And so the question would be then, what would it take to maximize that? Because honestly, the other rhythm, when you talk about dinner time and family time, is a rhythm that has been passed down for years, right? Because we go to work at a certain time, the W-2 type of thing, and then kids go to school from a certain time period, right? So it's an implied rhythm so that people like you feel like you're out of rhythm.
Yeah.
So the question would be is what would it take to be able to allow for that to occur?
Well, and I am thankful in my life, Mark makes dinner. So he will allow me to keep working. And the other day he made dinner. And I'm like, I somewhat get annoyed that I have to stop what I'm doing to eat dinner. And then I know it's ridiculous. I'm very
I'm
thankful.
so right there with you.
Yeah, but then the other night, like he's ready to go to bed and I'm sitting at the table because I decided that 6:30 to 8:30 would be the perfect time to go through all the mail and pay the bills when I had been home all day long earlier. You know, and then he's like ready to go to bed. He's like, "Do you want to play a game or something?" I was like, "Yeah, why aren't you doing the mail?" I don't know. You know, like but he's an early morning person. So I think that that's why I don't think I can work for anybody else ever. Like I need to be in control of my own schedule and what works for me. And it's getting a little bit easier as my kids are getting older. Like if I still had little kids at home and toddlers, just having the grandbaby all week's been something, y'all. So I don't know. I think that allows me to work within my rhythm. The other thing I need to do is to get some things done that are important to me before that 10 a.m. Like I need to work out before 10 a.m. Because if I say I'm going to do it later, I don't do it later because I'm in my work brain at that moment. And I have had my workout clothes on all day saying I'm going to walk on the treadmill and it's 4:45 and I have to be somewhere for dinner at 7. So it's not going to happen today.
Yeah. So Carrie, it sounds like you've identified kind of what your rhythms are. And so again, I would just throw out the question and you don't have to answer it right this second, but kind of ponder on this. Like, what would it take to be able to create that opportunity for that window to be open more for you? And kind of what I was hearing in there too is that your husband's rhythm is slightly different. So what would it take to match in there to be able to play the game, but maybe the game's at 1:30 in the afternoon before you hop into your brain, right? Like what does
Yeah.
that look like for the two of you?
Yeah.
Because we are somewhat conditioned on certain societal norms of rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I mean, all the high achievers get up at 5 a.m., right?
Well,
Not at my house.
that's what some
they
people
say.
say.
That's what they say on Instagram.
That's what the
The
guy that
early
wrote
bird.
the book says.
Well, if you hold the belief, you're going to gather the evidence.
Yeah.
So if you hold the belief you have to get up early, you're going to find ways to make that belief be true.
Yeah.
If you let go of the belief, you're going to find evidence that it doesn't have to be true.
Yeah.
If I got all my work done early and didn't have anything on my to-do list, I'd probably wander around my house and find another business to start. So I'd have too much free time.
So then
Well, and I
it's
think what
serving
Kathy
you.
says is so valid because like what you're saying, Carrie, is that you're gathering the evidence because the belief that you have is that you can do that work. It doesn't have to be an 8 to 5. It doesn't have to be that I'm up at 5 a.m.
Mhm.
Right. And that's what works for you. And we're not all in this cookie cutter approach. And so many times, and Kathy, I don't know if this is where you were going to, but like for me, I see sometimes with those things, take what you like and leave the rest. Because if it doesn't work for me, it doesn't mean that the success is such a judgment word anyway, but like what does it mean if I don't start doing anything until 10, but then I'm to your point, I'm still doing stuff at 7 or 8 because I get into the zone too around that time frame. And it's like because I have like a morning time frame and a later afternoon evening time frame, and then in between all that stuff, I can putz and like do all sorts of stuff, right? But I think that belief thing, Kathy, will you repeat that? Because I think that's really, I think that would,
If you hold the belief, you'll gather the evidence. And that's why I'm never work with someone on beliefs. I only work with someone on limiting beliefs. So if the belief is working for you, I'm not going to make you challenge it.
yeah.
Or make you embrace it. But if it's limiting you, you're going to gather the evidence that this is why this doesn't work and this is why that doesn't work.
And usually when it is limiting you, then that's not the belief that you have, right? Like there's some deeper belief, which is that whole brain science thing about you have a belief that creates the actions and the habits. And so if you believe that 5 a.m. is what creates that and that's what you want, then you shift. If you know you can do it a little differently, then that belief isn't that it has to be 5 a.m.
Well, then you don't hold the belief.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. It's like see what you really believe, not what you wish you believed.
That's good.
You know, I had the realization the other day, maybe a few weeks ago, and I told Mark, I said, you know what? Sometimes I think I had thought in the past, like I was friends with everybody, but never really fit in high school, that kind of thing. And I sometimes felt that way on the bleachers with the kids of the other parents, like I'm here, but I don't really fit in. And then like you'd get sad about it. And then I realized I never wanted to be like everybody else anyways. So
I wanted to stand out. I didn't want to fit in. Yeah.
like I'm not like other people and I don't want to be. So there we go. That was very freeing. All right, back to rhythm, Debbie. Sorry.
Oh, don't be sorry. And what does everybody else feel like rhythm means to them? And how does that?
I don't feel like I fit a rhythm, and that's freeing to me. The one I do fit is I seem to follow a school year pattern,
It's a rhythm.
not the calendar year. So, you know, I kind of started making changes in September, October. And, you know, I've been training for the 5K, and now just for me to jump in and do a 10K on the fourth day, you know, it wouldn't happen. But so that's one I do kind of follow. But I've noticed that if I start feeling productive, to just embrace it. And if it means I'm going to be up till 4 a.m, it's okay because I have the flexibility to sleep in or nap all day. And if I want to get up at 6 a.m, because I do this too, and I'll be productive, then I do that. But it's very inconsistent and unpredictable. And that's one of the things I wrote down, is you said, Pam, that predictability helps with others. And I need to find a way to address my non-predictability so that I can work with others.
Yeah, that's
Not
good.
really change it, but just like find that Venn diagram overlap. But you know, because like I have my schedule now where clients can go to my website and sign up, and they have to sign up like they can't sign up for 48 hours before current time because I need time um, to set myself up so that I'll be in coaching mode. Because when I come to these calls, I'm not in coaching mode. I'm in like, let's dig into this resistance piece, you know. So I guess like admitting that I'm not following a predictable rhythm is freeing
Yeah.
to me.
And I think you hit the nail on the head, Kathy, when you said it's really then too about understanding, and as you go to work with people, helping them understand your methodology, right?
Yeah, because if I was going to be coaching someone, I'd be in a total different energy than when I come to these.
Yeah.
And I need time to get myself to the right thing, but it's not like around a time of day. It's around intention, I guess, for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. What
I don't
about
know
you?
why, but I'm sad about it. I'm like, I wish I could be like everyone else and have like this schedule where everything is. But
Yeah. Well, you
I'll
gotta look.
accept it.
That just needs to go. Bye-bye.
That's like comparing yourself to everybody's A reel, right, on Facebook, comparing it to your B reel. Like, you just can't, right? Like, I have tons of rhythms in work. I have 0 rhythms in my personal life, right? Like, I hate being pinned down to anything, but in work, I have to. So,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah. And so to that point too, sometimes we imply rhythms. Like I know for me, my DNA propensity, even when I travel in different time zones, even though I do take 2 p.m. and drink a glass of champagne to help with it, but like I can switch time zones very easily. But that also then means that when I get ready for bed, I have to be very intentional about what that nighttime routine is to get my body to shut down to go to sleep on a consistent basis. And so I create a rhythm to help with that because I know I can't show up as my best self and be and do the person that I want to be and do if I don't do that. Right. So sometimes we have implied rhythms that we can bring onto ourselves too. And part of that, Kathy, I think for you is not having rhythm works for you. And you've got a personal life situation where it allows for that. Right. I think there's a lot of people actually that would love to be in your place, but just don't have the lifestyle,
Yeah.
that can do that.
And it allows me to do stuff like, like I'm on my nephew's emergency list for their baby's daycare because they know I could be there in 10 hours,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Michelle, what about you? What does the law of rhythm mean for you? And there's no right or wrong. All of these are valid.
Yeah, no, I'm just listening. I think it's interesting because I almost wonder if I haven't put myself into the rhythm that fits everybody else, just like you guys are saying. And one of the things that I have found is that my husband, I love him so much, and and his love language is quality time, and that's my lowest. Like mine's acts of service and words of affirmation, right? So when I'm working, when I'm doing, that's my like way I'm showing love. But his is like, put your shit down. I want to see the whites of your eyes. Like, get off your phone, get off your computer, or whatever. And so I have intentionally acclimated to that in order to respect our marriage. But I mean, I'm curious on what mine would be if I didn't. You know what I mean? So this has been really interesting for me just to listen to that. And definitely morning person. I am like shot by 7:30 at night. I'm just done. So, and then I don't know, the law of rhythm too. I don't know why, but it keeps coming in my head like there's a season for everything. And I don't know if that's kind of where I can't remember. It's been a while since I've looked at this, but that there are going to be times of harvest and there's going to be times of planting, and just to know that like this is the rhythm of the way it's supposed to be. And so sometimes I might be in a season of planting when I think I should be harvesting, and then I get frustrated. So I don't know, am I on the right track at all in this?
Yeah,
For
I
this
mean,
law or not? But
I think you are, because it's talking about the rhythm of things, right? Like where I live, we have 4 seasons. There's a rhythm to I just looked over there, my little microgreen thing, right? There's a rhythm. I have to spray it down for 4 or 5 days, and then I start to see some growth. And then when I can't harvest it right now because it's seeds, right? Like, so that's kind of what I'm hearing you say too. That's also the law of gestation, which fits into the law of gender, which is why we're working these two together from an application perspective, because there's a lot of like intertwinedness with that. Absolutely. So
yeah,
what would
so
your law of rhythm look like if you didn't have?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. I know that I am definitely an early riser. I would rather get up I'm a nerd. I'd rather get up at 5 a.m. and have my alone time where nobody's bothering me. And then, get into my thing, my stuff. And then, yeah, by the time, 5 o'clock comes around, I'm just kind of wanting to whittle down, unless I'm really into something. You could find me if I have nobody in the house, but I get the house to myself on a Saturday night, I will be like designing t-shirts on Canva, like weird shit. Because I like to
It's
work.
time alone you speak of. That's a thing.
I know, right?
Good
Sometimes
God.
I'm in the stage of my life where my kids, like, their friends are cooler than me. And my husband might be like, I am either, I want to be home and not leave my yard or be on a plane. Like there's no in between with me. My
Yeah, me
husband
too.
is antsy as hell. Like he cannot sit still. He's like, I'm going to town. I gotta get out of this house. And so I'm like, good, go to the basketball game. Let me stay here with my sweatpants and my Canva.
My husband will go to the grocery store almost every single day because he gets to leave the house and get a coffee while he's there. Like,
We are married to the same people. We're married to the same people.
Meanwhile, I haven't left the house all week.
And it does add some complexity, not in a negative way, but complexity when you have other people's rhythms to work around, right?
Yeah.
And I know for me, that was one of the toughest things to change when I became an entrepreneur, was this idea of rhythm. Because I'm a little bit like you, Carrie. If I could start working at about 1 o'clock and work till about 7, I am gold, right? And that's, I think, part of why I love ski season so much, is because when I go ski until noon or 12:30, then it's like I rock it out the rest of the day. And but when you also look at rhythm, it's really about also the fact that the law of rhythm basically says everything's moving, right? So the law of rhythm also guarantees that there is always change. Like we are different people now than we were almost an hour ago when we started this call. Right? Like there is change that occurs, and the law of rhythm, this idea of movement is, and I always start with this rhythm of like nature's rhythm that you can see, and then kind of this like time rhythm, but it's true also of your energy. And that's what Kathy, you were kind of getting to too. It's true of your mood, cash flow, what you focus on, like there's energy in all of those things. So continue to be aware of that and how that plays out for you. And then also how that plays out in the law of gender. And because of the time, we don't have time to go into this, but we might go a little bit further into this next week, is what does that law of gender mean to you along with the law of gestation? And how does that play out for you in your business? And we all have different takes on this law. And the cool thing about these laws is they are, when I say there's no right or wrong, there's an intention, there's a container for it, but it ultimately means different things to each one of our 5 boxes here, because we're all in different stages, different things in our lives, right? So there are certain things that come into play more for someone than maybe it does for someone else at that moment in time, right? These things are pretty meaty. So we were talking tactics today, kind of how does that apply? And so maintaining that awareness. Next week, we will get into the inner game, and what we're going to really take a look at is I want to dig into and talk a little bit more about gender and this application of it, but also how does transactional analysis fit into this? And that's those 4 people that are in your head. So we'll talk more about that next week. And with that, folks, we'll see you on Tuesday. Everybody have a great weekend.
I'm
Yeah.
a maybe for next week, Debbie. So
Okay. For the whole week.
yeah, I don't know what I'm doing yet. I might be on a boat. So
Oh, yeah, that's right. Awesome. Have fun.
I hope I am. All right.
Bye.
Okay. See you later.
Bye,
Bye, guys.
guys.